Evening, everybody. Back with Everybody Knows We're Lame. A short hiatus, and when you see Clemmer and I together, it means death is in the air. And sadly, someone has passed. I think the last time we got together was when Ma Clavin died. This is much more serious. George Wendt is no longer with us.
Was that it, or was it when who else died?
Kirstie Alley died.
Who died? Kirstie Alley. Was that when we came back? I thought it was that.
I know we did Ma Clavin. I know that much.
All right.
But yeah, this is much bigger. This is one of the pivotal characters, George Wendt. Very sad. I saw you were broken up on the Greenwich stream. Seemed like real raw emotion coming through.
I was stunned. I didn't know he was in such ill health. He's one of 3 people, I think, who was in every episode. Is that right?
Let's see. It would be Sam, Norm, and Carla, right?
Believe so.
Yeah.
I think those. So I mean, this is like one of the foundational pieces of Cheers is George Wendt.
So we did watch an episode. We watched season 3, episode 11, entitled Peterson Crusoe. But we could also just talk about Norm in a grander scale as a character. Where does he rank in terms of your favorites? Because I think Norm was an interesting character in that he was pretty standard. He had his intro line. You know what I mean? Like he had the Vera jokes. I feel like you knew what you were getting with Norm, but it wasn't the range of emotions that you got with Sam or Frasier or someone like that.
No, but maybe it was the consistency. But like he might have been. He was one of my favorites. Like he's right up there with like Sam, Woody. I really loved Woody, and I think Norm is right there with him. Kirk made a good point, like saying he's one of the greatest characters in TV history. So I was thinking about that, and it's funny with him. I agree. I think Norm Peterson's one of the greatest characters in TV history.
Really?
But he's one that's not weird. Like, think about like Kramer or even George Costanza or even like Lucille Ball or the Honeymooners. Go back. Usually their favorite characters are these complete, like insane people. But Norm was probably the most regular of them.
Or become like Ron Swanson became over time essentially like a superhero. He was like, it was this absurd thing. Or with Michael Scott, like by the end of Michael Scott's run, you're like, this man's like mentally challenged. Like, he wouldn't be able to have a job, never mind run an office. Norm, there was never that. He was a human being. And we talked about this on KMS too, that what they did well with Norm was like, there was an inherent darkness. Like he was miserable. He hated his job. He hated going home to the wife. Like he was legitimately a barfly. Like they painted that well, but it was never sad. You were never like uncomfortable watching Norm, and he wasn't a fall down drunk. He was just a guy that drank a lot. Like he did depict like a real guy that we all kind of know to a degree.
Absolutely. His life also got, you could argue, progressively worse as the show went on. Like he started off seemed like to be a pretty successful accountant. In the episode we watched, he just got a good accounting job in Braintree. Yeah. And then by the end, he's a painter, but he's like not even a good painter. Like he really
a house painter. And even like I think when he started house painting, they made it seem like he was free, like he could find. But even that faded away after a little while. He was miserable doing that too.
Yeah, a very unhappy guy. But you're right. But yet I never found him to be like miserable or grating. Like sometimes Cliff, it can be like, all right, that's enough Cliff to last me a while. Like I can get Cliffed out pretty easily. Sure. I never really got Normed out.
Cliff's a little bit in the Kramer category where it's like, well, that's not a real guy.
Right. And it did kind of lean more into those like Cliffisms of like, he knows everything, but doesn't know anything. And like, he is the mom is, but like, I felt it leaned harder with the Cliffisms. The Norm always seemed like someone you in theory could meet somewhere. Like Norm Peterson might be the greatest everyman in TV history.
Probably so, yeah. Because like Homer Simpson obviously got ridiculous over time. Like every other character you name, there's a ridiculous element to it. But with Norm, there's not really.
Yeah, and I mean, something like King of Queens, like Kevin James' career. I think there's like a 5 or 10% part of him that owes Norm something. Kind of like that for creating kind of that template of being this like heavy set guy who is like very relatable. But yet you can't help but love him. And I'm not saying like everything Kevin James does is like, but Norm kind of did set that template a little bit, kind of moving forward. We saw it in a bunch of different shows moving forward after that.
Yeah. Do you think John Ratzenberger could have pulled off Norm? Because that's originally what he auditioned for, that part. I think it would have been a way different character.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to even envision that. I mean, I don't remember life before Cheers. Like, it came out when I was 2. I only know a world with Cheers in it.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine anyone else playing some of those roles. I also can't imagine George Wendt playing Cliff. I know that that was really on the table, but like, I can't. So no, I can't foresee that. And I think you said if it did happen, it would have to be very different.
Yeah. There was nothing crazy about Norm. It felt like you could have a conversation with the guy. But we are talking about season 3, episode 11, Peterson Crusoe, which is Robinson Crusoe is the reference. I had to look it up, but
yes,
I think I'm right about that. This episode starts with setting up. We get a cold open that actually like sets up the episode, which is kind of rare. I thought the B plot fucking stunk. I hated the idea that Carla and Diane are having a waitress off. The premise at the beginning is like Diane still can't figure out how to order drinks. She's been there for 2.5 years now.
Yes.
It's like she would have this down by this point. It just felt like they didn't have anything, and they threw this together as the B plot.
I think there was actually something there. They fucked it up. So, I mean, who am I to say anything about Cheers? But like, as great as it is, but I think the interesting dynamic was when Diane tries, she's actually a very good waitress. I think that's a lot more interesting. Like, she's like checked out, and she says, "When I put my mind to it, I can do it," and she did it. I think that's a lot more interesting than her like lying about cheating or however they kind of resolve that in a weird way. Like, the idea that Diane just doesn't give a fuck about this job that she's been at for 3 years, that to me is a lot more interesting of a premise.
That actually is a way better premise. I didn't love it. The one part of that plot line I did like was the Sam not caring. He had a few funny lines that I liked. So
Sam was very funny in this episode.
Yeah.
He has, we'll get to obviously a very good, for a sitcom, especially like a good dramatic scene with Norm later on. But his just like not giving like a fuck about these like idiots that work for him was very funny.
Yeah. I was trying to think, was Frasier not on the show by this point? He wasn't in the episode.
I thought he was on this show.
So did I.
Point, he was not in the episode.
Maybe just not a regular yet.
Coach looks very sick. This is near the end of Coach. He's very thin here. This is his last season, I believe, on the show, and I don't think he even made it through the rest of the season. Much longer in the season.
Yeah, no, there's a couple episodes that I think that came out after he died. That were shot after he died that they were able to include him in by the way they shot certain scenes. But yeah, he doesn't make it through this season, I don't believe.
Yeah, and you can. I know, like it was like jarring for me to watch. I was like, oh shit, he looks really bad here. I mean, he did all of his lines perfectly. It was typical Coach. He just didn't look well.
Right. There is a funny thing with Coach that they kind of reveal at the end of the episode that he lived his perfect life, which I thought was a nice little, especially based on the context of us watching this. I thought it was a nice little tie-in there.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And he is this happy guy who just kind of fell into, part of it's because everyone likes being around Coach, but he fell into exactly the life that he wanted to have. I think that's wonderful.
So the reason we chose this episode is because it starts with Norm having a health scare. Something comes back where he thinks he may have cancer or something like that. He walks into the bar very ominously. We get a sad Norm when he walks in today. Mm-hmm. And very quickly, it's amazing the turnaround. Within 5 minutes, he found out it was just a mistake. Nothing's wrong with him. He's okay.
Not even 5 minutes, Mike. It was like 30 seconds. Yeah. He goes from sitting in the floor to instantly Vera knows to call Cheers, which is funny. That's where to find him, as opposed to being with your wife when you get horrible medical news.
Right.
And then he instantly finds out the news is not the case at all. It was one of the most contrived things you'll see in any show. It was almost laughable how contrived it was.
How quick, especially when it is a reasonable plot line. Like, they have a good setup there. They just delivered it in a way where it was like, I'm sick. Oh, no, I'm not. But a little ridiculous in nature, like how they went about it, but I thought it was a good way. I'm glad we picked this episode because it was nice showing like who Norm is, I think. So the basic premise, for those of you that didn't watch the episode, Norm has a second chance at life, basically, and is going to throw everything away, move to the islands, and start over.
Bora Bora.
Yes, Bora Bora. And just be free, finally. But eventually we learn He was too much of a coward to pull it off, which I do think encapsulates Norm. Like, he's happy with his routine. He doesn't want any adventure. He likes, working as little as he has to, and then going and sitting at the same seat at Cheers and drinking with his boys.
You said the word. I don't know if he is happy doing that, but that's what he does.
Right.
I think deep down, Norm is not a happy person. But that is what he does, and it's true to the character. Halfway through this episode, I'm like, what the fuck? I had no memory of this episode. I'm like, what the fuck is this episode? And then when he burst out of in Sam's office with the hat on, I'm like, oh, I remember this one. Yeah. That's exactly who Norm is. He's very true to the character. It's exactly what Norm in this bizarre situation of going to Bora Bora would do. He wouldn't go. Most people wouldn't go. I think most people, I don't think, would camp out in the back office of their bar, but most people wouldn't go. And I think that's what made it like relatable and kind of an everyman, is that like you have these dreams, and as adults, we all have dreams we grew up with, or this dream kind of happened suddenly, but we all have dreams, and most of us don't get to live out those dreams. And then like, how do you kind of rectify that, and where do you kind of end up? I think it handled it really well.
A Cheers staple that I always point out, it was one of the episodes I referenced when George Wendt died, was there's an episode where Norm has an opportunity to cheat on his wife, and he realizes he doesn't really want to, but he feels obligated to, because all the guys at the bar are basically calling him a pussy. They're calling him gay because he doesn't want to cheat on his wife. Cheers has a way of doing that, where in this episode, they're like, you fucking coward, you're not going to drop everything and move to Bora Bora? And he's like, I'm going to do it. And they're like, you better. There's a weird trope in Cheers where it's like, to move the plot along, they almost make you feel like you're silly for not doing this ridiculous thing.
Meanwhile, none of them would do it themselves.
Of course.
Like, look at the rest of them. Diane's working a job she hates. Cliff won't even move out of his mother's house. Like, they're all kind of stuck in their ways, but yet they're going to belittle someone for kind of having the same faults they have, which is also an interesting context.
Yeah. And so, yeah, as you said, Norm couldn't do it, and he ended up hiding out in Sam's office for days on end. Odd that they never were able to find him, but he was back there for a few days.
And where was he? Like, so do you think he was going home to Vera at night, right?
See, I don't know. I thought the point of him hiding out there was that even Vera was fooled by this or something.
So we see him burst out. He's got like a bag of pretzels. So I guess he's been just eating kind of bar pretzels for the last 3 weeks. We don't know what he's been drinking. I'm sure he found some beer. But I just don't like where was, like, that's a long time to be just camped out in the bar.
Right. You think he hasn't showered? He asked when laundry day was.
Must smell terrible.
Watching this episode, though, and particularly that scene, it made me realize, and it doesn't seem like this on paper, but Sam and Norm actually have like one of the most beautiful relationships in television. Like, every once in a while, they have a scene together that I think perfectly encapsulates that relationship, and they do a good job of showing that Sam likes this guy, but also like pities him a little bit. Like, this is his best customer. I guess not really, if Norm never pays, but like his maybe his favorite customer. And the way they even write well, like the way Sam talks to Norm is almost like this father figure type of relationship.
Yeah, I mean, all the guys who work there idolize Sam. Pitched in the major leagues, right. Owns the bar. He definitely has the highest status. And Norm definitely idolizes Sam. And a few people were like showing the clip of the last episode. And Norm and Sam have the last back and forth before Norm leaves, I guess, the last person Sam talks to in Cheers. Yeah. But that's the one point where Norm kind of gives Sam the advice. Is like, oh, no, like, you've always loved the bar. The bar is your girl. It's not right. It's nobody else but the bar. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition, because you're right, Mike. Like, for the entire run of this series, for the most part, Sam's the one giving Norm advice. So it's kind of a nice flip on that in the last episode.
Yeah, and I like in the last episode that Norm is the last one to leave the bar, because I think it's true to like what that whole dynamic would be, that the last person out of there would have been Norm Peterson. Obviously, you have to rip him out to get him out of there.
Absolutely. And the fact that Sam loves Norm so much that he doesn't mind that he's the last guy out every night, that's an interesting relationship too, and also felt really organic and real. I didn't love the first half of this episode, Peterson Crusoe.
Yeah.
But I actually really like the second half a lot. And I'm glad we watched, because halfway through I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Totally agree. I was thinking the same thing, because I was like, I don't even know. I guess we're just gonna make fun of the episode because the first half is not great.
No. Yeah, but the second half was great, and that back and forth with Sam and Norm, that was cool. That was good to see, because it was like two friends. But you're right, Mike. It is a weird dynamic, because it's not just friends. There's a weird owner-customer thing going on. There's a weird, idolization thing going on. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and it was a funny scene also at the end when Norm's about to reveal that he's there, and he hears them all saying, like, "It's the only thing I've ever respected him for," which like that was pretty funny. And there's a nice scene with Cliff at the end, who Cliff is also like, Cliff and Norm are a weird relationship too, where they're almost forced into like this brotherhood where they wouldn't know each other otherwise. They just happen to hang out at this bar, but they would become like true best friends, which this episode illustrates.
Yeah, and even that relationship's weird. I feel like Norm has higher status over Cliff in that relationship.
Definitely.
But it is symbiotic. And it's also interesting, like when they have those episodes, they do kind of gang up on somebody. Norm and Cliff then work together hand in hand to troll somebody. But then like if it's 1 versus 1, then Norm almost always seems to have the upper hand over Cliff.
Right. Any other Norm thoughts, just in general, outside of this episode?
I just had an interesting George Wendt one. So I was looking at Mike. This guy is without a doubt one of the greatest TV characters ever. Now you can argue where he falls in that, but he's one of the greatest. He never won an Emmy. He was nominated 6 times. He ran into the John Larroquette train. John Larroquette won 4 Emmys in a row for Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy for Night Court. I think the year before, Dan Schneider from One Day at a Time.
Okay. Not the Nickelodeon guy.
Not the Nickelodeon. I know. I forgot that. All right. Not him. He did not win. Schneider from One Day at a Time won. And then John Larroquette won 4 in a row. And then somebody else won. So, yeah. So he was nominated 6 years in a row and never won.
Oh, so that's kind of like the Seinfeld thing, where Seinfeld didn't win many Emmys because Frasier was such a freight train.
Right. And then eventually Frasier kind of screwed Norm. Norm stopped getting nominated for Best Supporting Actor because it went to like Woody and Frasier. So then Norm lost his spot.
I don't want to speak ill of the dead. Frasier is I think Frasier is a better character than Norm. Again, he's more ridiculous of a like Norm is a better character as far as creating a person, but I would put Frasier above Norm in my history of TV characters.
Frasier's a better character than Norm. Sure, I'll give you that. There's more going on with that person. It's a more like interesting. He's married, and he's obviously eventually. He's single, then he gets married to Lilith. That whole dynamic, and then obviously you have a whole 10-year sitcom after that. So that character is great. I enjoy Norm quite a bit more than Frasier. The Frasier episodes, especially on Cheers, they're fine. Actually, I will say this: the Norm episodes on Cheers are kind of just fine. But like the day-to-day with Norm is much more enjoyable. I laugh. I enjoy Norm way more than I laugh and enjoy Frasier.
Yeah. Norm has great lines, great ball-busting lines. And this episode did make me think of that a little, because I always think of like Seinfeld and Always Sunny being the 2 shows that kind of captured like friends actually hanging out, how friends would talk and bust balls. Cheers is different because there's a lot more heart in it, and there's actual like storylines, and it's not as much about nothing as those other 2 shows. But like they are good at creating like that ball busty type of environment, whether it's Carla and Norm. Like there's good banter, and how act like friends or just people that have known each other as long as they have, how they would actually interact in real life.
Oh yeah, like way more than like a show like compared to like Friends. Like on Cheers,
yeah, exactly.
In Cheers, there's like real hatred sometimes. Like Carla and Diane like hate each other sometimes. Like there is like actual like real negative energy sometimes in Cheers. Where Friends, they're always so happy. It's such bullshit. It feels so artificial. But Cheers, there is some heart to it, and maybe a little bit more than reality would have. But I don't think it's too much more. I think Cheers to me is way more realistic than most sitcoms. Sitcoms don't really exist anymore, but what sitcoms, were, I think Cheers is one of the more realistic ones. I think that's why it kind of, I don't say like it's people still watch it like all the time, but I feel like it has a little bit of life because it's so realistic.
Oh, for sure. But the other thing, we kind of alluded to this earlier, but the thing they do so well with Norm's character, or like we mentioned Frasier, like Frasier went through a divorce on the, like Lilith cheated on Frasier and they had a divorce, and they have those type of storylines and they managed to keep it funny. Like there are times where it's dramatic or heartfelt, but that's fairly brief. And they do always manage to keep it funny while telling the stories of these people who would have inherently sad lives. Like even that down to the theme. If you listen to the lyrics of the theme song, especially the full version, like it's actually profoundly sad if you listen to it. But it has this upbeat, like it just gets stuck in your head. It's just a regular TV theme song. But if you're listening to them describe the patrons of this bar, they have miserable lives.
I watched this on a streaming service, or Paramount Plus it's on. Yeah. And I'm watching it, and it gave me the option to like skip the intro. I'm like, why would I ever skip this intro? This is the greatest theme song in TV history. I love the old pictures, the old faces, and everything. Like, skip the intro on Cheers. They should just take that. That should remove that button. That should not even be an option for Cheers. It's so great. But you're right about as far as like, kind of the underlying sadness, and we see it even with this episode, where like this is an episode about dreams that are unfulfilled. And they'll never be fulfilled. We all know Norm's never going to Bora Bora, not even on a vacation. Like he's just never going to go there. But yet you're right. It keeps it light. It keeps it funny. And yet it feels real. This was not a perfect Cheers episode. It's very disjointed. It's kind of a mess, especially up top. But that last scene or near the end scene, with Sam and Norm, that is quintessential Cheers.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I was thinking about with George Wendt is he was my go-to reference for you know how they do the thing now where like they'll have a picture of like Paul Rudd and who am I thinking of? The diabetes guy, Wilford Brimley. Yeah, they'll have a picture of both of them and be like, both these men were 50 when this photo was taken.
Yeah,
George Wendt was my reference for it, similar to that, where like when Cheers started, not just George Wendt, but the character Norm. He wasn't playing older. The character Norm Peterson was 32 years old.
Yes,
that's stunning to me if you look at him. But it plays to what we're talking about with the kind of like these people that have these sad lives. Like Norm looks like he's well into his 40s from get-go on that show.
Oh yeah, people also just looked older back then.
True.
Like you watch any of these shows from like the 70s or also like I feel like back then you also didn't hire the most beautiful people all the time. So you had like more characters. Like even watching shows like Newhart or Barney Miller or like any of these shows that were 70s, 80s sitcoms, they didn't have like the best looking cast. It was like regular people you'd find. And some of them do look kind of old. Like Cliff, look at John Ratzenberger. He looks so old. Right. But he's in his 30s for a chunk of this too, I believe. Like
yes, yeah, he is.
Or damn close to it. Like you're right. It is funny how much older these people look than people even see now. I think even in regular life. I think people just looked older back then.
Right. I don't know. Any final Norm thoughts, whether it's this episode or otherwise? I
gotta say, George Wendt had an awesome life. Like married to the same woman forever, got to do Cheers, which he seemed to appreciate. I know he had like the George Wendt show, which didn't work on CBS a couple years later, but he seemed to like not be upset about being typecast. At least not publicly. He got to do the SNL stuff with the Bears, so he got to like be part of the SNL world without having to like deal with probably a lot of the bullshit that cast members might have to deal with. He still got to be in like 11 episodes.
Did he ever host? Is that why he was in that sketch? Okay,
yeah. I looked that up too. He hosted not twice, and he got to be a guest 9 times. So we got to be on 11 episodes. It's half of a season. So yeah, I think it's a pretty great life. Like it's hard to find. I don't know. It's a pretty good run. And then he probably made more than enough on the residuals from Cheers to never have to worry about working again. That's a pretty awesome run.
Yeah. And he is a guy like he found the perfect role, because like you could say like, oh, he got typecast as people just thought of him as Norm, so he was never able to get his own show after that. But I think that role for that guy seems perfect. Like it doesn't seem like he was made for anything he wasn't able to do. Like if you look at him and his acting abilities, him playing Norm Peterson feels perfect to me.
Yeah, because he's such an everyman. But he also did nail all the sentimental scenes, like that last scene in Cheers, or even the one in this episode. Like was he the greatest? Is he Robert De Niro acting? No, but did he nail the scenes he had to nail consistently for Cheers on for 12, 13 seasons? Like he nails all of them. So.
Yeah, there's times he has to have sentimental moments with if it's
Yes.
Vera or Cliff, like, and he does do those very well. Like, you get the sense that it's a guy, and he plays it perfectly where it's a guy that wouldn't usually have these moments, having a moment like that. You can tell he's like kind of uncomfortable, but he's getting through it. Like, he was always very good at that, I thought.
I completely agree. I think for that, and obviously this isn't a stretch, but like it's hard to have found anyone better to play Norm. Like, and all these, I mean, obviously all these characters are so great. That's why the show lasted so long. But that's not an easy one to nail for such a long time, and you have to like Norm, or else the show kind of doesn't really work entirely. And you always like Norm. You love Norm.
Love Norm. Rest in peace, Norm Peterson. Rest in peace, George Wendt, one of the greatest TV characters of all time. Before we go, are the Granite going to turn it around this year?
I'm so excited to go back on Tuesday and do more Granite. Like,
we all are. It's very exciting.
I think about it probably far too much. I think so. We finished the last year at 32-50. I think these young guys are going to get even, keep progressing. I think we're in really good shape to make the playoffs next year. I'm amped up. I'm ready to go. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3:00 game time. I'm amped up.
I like when Clemmer says, like at the end of an episode, he'll go, now we got trade deadline coming up. I want you to go home. I want you to think about Tyrese Maxey. And I do that. I sit here and I think about Tyrese Maxey for a little while. And then
I hope you do. I need ideas. I need good trade. What's a good trade package? What could we get for Tyrese Maxey? What could we get for, Sengun? We got to trade Sengun. Sengun's gone. We're trading. We got to figure out what we're going to get for him.
It's about time.
I know. His defense is very poor. Very poor. I'm excited.
Anything else?
No, that's all I got.
All right, everybody. Sorry, we're closed.